It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. We're live on the big mountain. Again, JY here without Steve. Steve is on vacation, but I will have him back, hopefully, next week. I need him. I'm missing him. I'm not his wife, but he's my buddy, and I miss my buddy. So I got to hold down the fort again. I plan to do that. I see we got a lot of people in the chat already. Welcome aboard. Some of our typical mountain dwellers, some new names here, which is awesome. We got Clint in the chat. Good to have you, sir. JEH, Big Mommer, Skylar, Jerry, Squeezed Money. I'm sure there's a few others. So here's how we're going to do it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Got our beer mug back up. I actually got a list of topics for my producer tonight, and you see them. I'm going to start just real brief thoughts on the semifinal games. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, whether or not you agree or disagree with me. Then we're going to get into our championship pick. I have Steve's pick. I have my pick. And I will just tell you right now, we both are going to pick the same team. And Steve wins this year's Battle of the Big Mountainers. Because I won last year. I had one more correct bowl playoff pick than he. He beats me by 2 this year, so the trophy will be going to him. I will give him a trophy next week when he's here. I don't want to do that without him. But anyway, so he is the winner between he and I. He got more correct picks, so good on him. We both did pretty daggone well. We were above 60% on our bowl game, so that's pretty stinking good. Especially since we're picking teams that we don't really follow very much. So welcome aboard if you're new here. What we're going to do, we'll just kind of go through the list of topics. I am going to get into more Q&A discussion types of deals here tonight, mainly because I dropped 2 pretty big episodes here over the past few days. Would love to hear if there's any questions from any of our maybe Texas State fans, any of our Sacramento State fans, anybody like that. I will be taking questions later on. I like to do that towards the end. It gives our Western fans and folk a little more time to get get home from work in their house and maybe be able to turn this on. So we'll get to that here in a little bit, but I am going to rely on commenters with some questions, and we'll make it as long as we need to or as short as we need to. So let's go with my thoughts first. I want to talk about the Penn State Notre Dame game here real quick, and I have to just say this because I gave Steve a hard time, and everybody knows what I'm probably going to say. But Drew Aller, oh my goodness, buddy. Just a struggle for him. Steve will still defend him. If Steve were sitting here right now, he would tell me that Aller had a good game. He did struggle, but it wasn't his fault. And I would say to Steve, it absolutely was his fault. And I have no idea what he was doing on the last play there, throwing that silly interception that ended the game, basically, and ruined any chances of Penn State going to the finals. And I'm just not impressed with Aller. I said to Steve, over the last 2 games, I think he had 1 good quarter out of 8. And that 1 good quarter was the first quarter against Boise State when that offense looked unbelievable and the Boise State defense was playing this prevent garbage. After that, the next 7 quarters for me, completely unimpressive by him. And I don't know how you go through a semifinal game and not have a completion to a wide receiver. That just blows my ever-loving mind. And now we see that the receivers are leaving. They're in the transfer portal. I don't blame them whatsoever. I mean, they didn't get looks in a semifinal game, so they're moving on. Steve would tell you that their receivers were nothing, out of this world to begin with, but give the guys a break, for crying out loud. Throw them the ball. So those are my thoughts on that. Well done by Notre Dame. They stuck around, had a really good second half, come back and win that game. Then we have the Ohio State versus Texas game. I'll eat a little bit of crow. I've been hard on Texas. I said I thought they were overrated. Very close game here until the end. Obviously, OSU's up there by the 1 touchdown. Then we have that fourth, when Texas was going on a 4th down, they had to scoop and score to put the game away there for Ohio State. But I'll give credit to Texas. I've been hard on them. They had a very good game against, again, in my opinion, the best football team in this country. Steve has said throughout the season, this was the best team on paper throughout the country. And I'll tell you what, over these playoffs, that paper has been put on the field. They look really, really good. And but again, I'll give Texas some credit here because they played Ohio State very, very well. That defense, as everybody has said, has been really, really good. The Stables in the house. Welcome, sir. Notre Dame secondary is insane. Yes, very, very good. I see, let me go back up real quick. Squeeze Money. Aller was terrible. Yeah, unfortunately, I totally agree with you. And let's see, rumbling. Seemed like the receiver messed up. I think he's talking about that, maybe the interception there towards at the late in the game. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. I'm not sure, rumblings, but I don't know why Aller's even throwing the ball remotely close to that guy. Just throw it away. And I think he said afterwards, I should have just thrown it away. Yeah, I believe that's what you're taught pretty young. Anyway, won't crap on the guy anymore. Steve's not here to defend the poor man. So let's get to our picks. We've got one game left to pick, the championship game for this college football season, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. The line here sitting at 8.5. It opened at 9.5. I actually jumped on it. I didn't want it to go above 9.5, so I jumped on it right away when it opened at 9.5. It has come down a point. It's at 8.5. OSU, one of, if not the best overall defenses in the country. I talked about what they're like on paper and that they've been putting it on the field. And this offense for OSU is absolutely better than that Penn State offense, especially when really it was either throw the ball to their tight end Warren, or they're going to have to run either Singleton or Allen, whatever the heck his name is. And their running game was great, but a little bit one-dimensional, especially if you can shut down that tight end there for Penn State. Ohio State's offense, their receivers are just beast mode. I mean, they're fantastic. Smith is amazing, super young, exciting talent. And Notre Dame, absolutely, I think they're going to be in this game, but Steve and I are going to agree on the national championship pick, and we're both taking the Ohio State Buckeyes at -8.5 to be the national champion. We said after they lost to Michigan, in my opinion, or I should say I said, the only way Ryan Day keeps his job is if he wins the national title, and I think he's going to do it. I think this team's going to do it. They've proved that they have been one of the best in the country throughout the season. They had that very close loss to Oregon where they just ran out of time in Oregon. Then they had that just defeat against Michigan that just has their number. Again, I've kind of thrown that away. I know it's a loss, but I throw that one away. And they have looked fantastic in this postseason. I mean, these playoff games, they have looked really, really good. I am going to throw out my score in this game. If you guys have score predictions, let me know. I see Joseph saying OSU by 10. I see Squeezed Money saying Notre Dame and Ohio State both have great defenses, but Ohio State has the better offense. I agree with you, Squeezed Money, and I think that offense is going to do very well and score some points in this game. Also, Squeeze Money says both of these teams are playing at their best right now. Absolutely. And that's what, we couldn't ask for much more. Two teams coming into this game that are playing at the top of their game. This is exactly what we want. But my score prediction is going to be 31-17. I think the Buckeyes win by 2 touchdowns. So I'm a little more bullish than Joseph Lindley is. He says by 10. I say by 14. And we're both taking the Buckeyes again at -8.5. So, hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I see we've got about maybe 20, 25 peeps here in the chat. Great to have all of you on. I want to get to an item, and I didn't really preface this too much, that we were going to talk about this. It wasn't in the thumbnail, but one item that came to me today that I really found interesting, and I'm going to say it's a rumor because I can't corroborate this. It came to someone that I've had interaction with on X. If you're on X, you may know this person, Joe the Sauce Hedberg. He is a Beaver fan, so Jeh. I don't know if you're on X or not, but you may know him. He has sauces all over. Apparently, he has a sauce in Utah State. So I want to talk real quick about Utah State here. And again, I'm going to call this a rumor because, again, I can't corroborate this. But what was said makes sense to me, and it goes back to why Utah State was what we thought was going to be originally within the Mountain West. Of course, they weren't in that first tier, that first group that went to the PAC. Then the PAC obviously went and did what they did with some of those AAC schools, then came back to some of the Mountain West schools. But as I said, something that I found really interesting today that he brought to me, again, I'm going to call this a rumor, but it does seem to make sense, was, I got to find my notes here. Okay, so as I said, they went with that first wave. They went to the AAC schools, and then while many thought they came back, the PAC came back to these Mountain West schools because of what I think most of it thought was perceived value to the PAC. There may be more to the story here. Again, given the recent successes of Utah State's specifically men's basketball program, and the kind of rebuilding of, until they had the coaching issue, rebuilding of the football brand, they seem to think that they were deserving of a larger payday than many of the Mountain West schools. Something similar to what both UNLV and Air Force were getting. So if you know what's going on with the MOU, both UNLV and Air Force are being guaranteed a higher percentage of money than the other schools. And apparently USU felt like they should also be guaranteed something higher than the other schools, but they were lumped into the other group. So it was everybody else here. So with that, when they're like, well, if you're going to group us in with everyone else, we think we're worth more. We think we're worth something similar to Air Force, and you're going to group us with everyone else, then we want out of here. We don't want this. And that was really the item that pushed them to leave the Mountain West. Rumors are that they actually wanted to stay in the Mountain West, but because they weren't given this value they thought they were worth, that's why they went to Utah State. So I found that really interesting. Who knows if there were negotiations? Who knows if ultimatums were given? Again, this is rumor, but I found it kind of interesting. I wanted to bring that to you guys tonight. It's water under the bridge at this point. It really doesn't matter, but the timing of that was very different. And I do want to go back to some reporting that we did several months ago when that occurred. Tom Berman with Wyoming said that he thought all six of them were together. He thought all six were sticking around, or seven, I'm sorry, at that point were sticking around. So that was interesting. Yeah, stable old news. I apologize if it is, if you guys have seen that before. I hadn't read that or seen that. But I thought it was an interesting take. I thought I'd get it to you guys as well. And if it's old news and if you saw that, I do apologize. All right, let's get to the next item. And I want to hear from any questions that we have here on the news that I dropped yesterday, the Texas State PAC situation. Again, I want to be clear on what I'm saying and what I know. So to be clear, there's no invitation on the table today. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is there are discussions and negotiations for Texas State to be the 8th member of the PAC. I am very confident in what I'm being told. I'm very confident that is the case. That doesn't mean they're going to be the 8th member. My opinion is that they will be. I think that will translate into an invitation and an acceptance. That's my opinion part. But what I do know to be true is there's discussions and negotiations occurring right now. And quite frankly, I mean, here where we sit, I think Texas State, quite frankly, is the biggest winner in this. I mean, we knew they had Mountain West interest here early on. They said no thank you to that. Now, I know for a fact they have PAC interest. And so they kind of have the pick of almost 3 conferences. They said no thank you to the Mountain West. They're in the Sun Belt. If they're not comfortable with what they're hearing through negotiations, they absolutely can stay where they're at, or they can choose the PAC. I mean, they are really the big winner here, and it's supply and demand. They're in a great market. They're a growing university. They're a growing brand. So it's kind of up to them as to what they do. Again, assuming they get an invite from the PAC. So the other thing I just want to say, I talked about UNLV in that episode as well, and there's a lot of drum banging going on if you listen to the PAC talking heads. Those that follow the PAC the most closely or the closest. And wow, they are really banging this UNLV drum. And we'll see what happens. I have some different opinions on that. In terms of why that's being done right now, because really up until here the last few weeks, while UNLV, it was rumored, maybe they'll come, maybe they won't. Man, they are really out in front of this, are some of the pundits banging this UNLV drum. And I could see it one of two ways. I mean, I think if Texas State ends up being the 8th member, to me, UNLV's off the table. They're not gonna go for UNLV. I don't think they're gonna get UNLV. I think opposite to that, if UNLV somehow ends up being a member of the PAC, I don't think Texas State will be a member of the PAC. So I don't want to say I guess I'm saying it's one or the other, but I absolutely think that Texas State's in the pole position here, and UNLV's way, way back. I think there's just some thoughts that people want to try to stir the pot with UNLV to try to get them back into the kind of the limelight, that maybe this can happen, maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. We'll see what happens there. I know Canzano's had several people on. It seems like that's kind of his mission, to talk about the Nevada schools and how they can maybe go to the PAC, and that's fine. He certainly can do that, and if they get there, great, they get there. The other thing I just want to say is it does seem to me, and I kind of said this a few times, it does seem like, because he's banging that UNLV drum, you're not hearing him talk about the AAC schools much at all right now. He's focused on, he and others are focused on kind of UNLV, and it's some way pulling those AAC schools out of the conversation. Personally, I think that's kind of done intentionally. I think it's done intentionally, so it's tamping down potential rumors of these schools being added to the PAC, whether that's because the media values are not coming in as high as they want, or they just don't think they're going to get them. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I think it's very unlikely, as I said yesterday, that both Memphis and Tulane end up PAC members here in 2026. So I see we have a few questions in the chat. Let me go up here and make sure I don't miss any. Yes. So back to the USU item. That college football guy, basically they didn't get the pro rata they felt they deserved. Yes, that was the rumor that I'm hearing with Utah State. Yes, that was my understanding of that information. The stable reminding everyone that the Texas State Prez was repping, was it a Wazoo or an Oregon State flag at the game a few weeks ago? I don't know. You say Wazoo, so I'll believe you, stable. A Coug flag at the college game day there a little bit ago. Rumblings. Texas State could also go to the AAC to backfill. Good point. So that, yeah, great. So there's a fourth option for him, right? Yeah. Thank you, Rumblings. I mentioned, staying in the Sun Belt, Mountain West PAC interest, possibly if there's a backfill needed, AAC interest as well. So yeah, potential 4 options there. Thank you, Rumblings. Let's see. Joseph says, saw Immaculate post on X. There is potential rule change to expedite an FCS to FBS move to count as full member. Do you think that could relate to Sac State forcing the move to the Pac-12? I did not see that. I'd have to look that up and see what that's all about. I did not see that rule change happening. I'm going to get to Sac State in a minute, so that's my next piece, is on kind of the Mountain West editions, and I'll add Sac State into that. Do I think it's related? Probably not. Edward G. Oh, Edward, yes. It was the Oregon State flag he was waving. I thought it was the Beavs. Yes. Not that it matters. It was one of the Pac-12s. Excuse me. Yeah, Bill, only reason they're banging the UNLV drum so loudly is they desperately need them. I'm not going to go as far to say desperately need them, but I think they kind of want them. And I'll go back to what we heard from AD Classy. He likes that region. So, if they can get a school within that region, that they would prefer that. So I think, they're trying to, people say kick the tires. They're trying to kick the tires one more time at UNLV because they've got to make a decision here in the next couple months. So this may be their last go around of really trying to kick the tires with UNLV and drum up some support and publicity and all that kind of jazz. We'll see what happens. Joseph agrees. Stable Memphis Tulane could join in 27 if they want to avoid the high exit fees. Could happen, for sure. I think the PAC is focused on trying to get that 8th member right now because they need to be a conference. So while that may be true for 27, I really, really doubt it's true for 26. Thoughts on UTSA to the PAC? All right, Matt. Hey, welcome aboard, sir. Yeah, I think, as I said on that PAC update, I think UTSA and North Texas would be the two AAC schools that may be interested in moving to the PAC. I still think that's a hard push to get them there. But as I said, I give actually North Texas a slight leg up just because of the basketball success that they have. I think that's going to be really important to the PAC membership. Gonzaga, they've got a really good net rating there with the schools that they currently have. So I would give a slight leg up to North Texas if an AAC school wants to go. But I do know there's interest in UTSA as well. I just think any AAC school is going to be a little bit of a hard push for sure. Okay, Bill's going to go that far. He says they're desperate. I'm fine. I'm down with that. I know how you roll, Bill. Thank you. You keep it real. Rumblings, they need to enter the central time zone more than Vegas. Rumblings, that's a great point, and I haven't said this before, but I do think the fact that the Mountain West is now in the central time zone, and I don't need anyone to judge the school that they took, right? Because I don't think they're done in the central time zone. I'll get to that as well. If you heard my update today on the Mountain West, the two schools I have at the top of the list are still in the central time zone. But to get back to your point, I kind of wonder if the Mountain West now getting a school in the central time zone doesn't push the PAC to do the same. I am positive that media companies, media partners want the options of those different start times. So I agree with you 100% there, Rumblings. I think they need to get into the central time zone. And I think the fact that the Mountain West is there now only leads me to believe that the PAC absolutely has to be as well. So, everything, I didn't really bring that up in the Texas State edition, other than that they are in the central time zone. But I think that really pushes the envelope for them that they need to do that as well. Great comment. Totally agree with you. So Bill thinks it seems more likely they'll add Texas State and then wait and see what happens. Could be, absolutely. They only have to get to 8. Only got to get to 8. So that may be exactly what they do. Give it another year or two and see what happens. Agree. And Stable's laughing. I don't know if he's laughing at me or somebody else, but hey, if hopefully I'm entertaining enough that you can laugh at me. All right, so I think that was pretty much it. If anybody has any other questions, please keep them in the chat. I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you still have on that. But again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I know we've added quite a few new people here into the live session and live show. Just again, I am very confident in what I reported yesterday about Texas State, with the discussions and the negotiations happening right now. I'm very confident in giving you that information. And you can believe the Big Mountain, or you don't need to. It's all good. But I'm trying to help you guys out. And if there's more news coming, I will definitely keep you up to date. All right. So the last thing really is to talk about the Mountain West. And I got my pay dirt. And I didn't say it right yesterday. I said payday. I don't know. Pay Dirt Pete on. I got him on for a second straight day. And I love this shirt. I was so happy when I saw it. I'm like, I got to get that shirt. And so I did. And so it's my new UTEP shirt. And I got another couple new shirts. I'll get them out here shortly. And if we have any UTEP fans, I'll be wearing the Pay Date Pete shirt very, very proudly here when I'm picking your games in the next year and a half. So Mountain West, I had to throw that in there again because I love this shirt. Mountain West, you'll see I have 3 logos there on the screen. Obviously, if you listen to my update from today, really not new news coming out of the Big Mountain here. We've been talking about Tarleton State longer than we've talking about San Diego State. But we really started talking about San Diego State here a few months ago when we really thought either NIU or, am I saying San Diego State? Steve would be smacking me. North Dakota State. I apologize, Bison. I apologize. Steve should whack me upside the head. North Dakota State. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, we started talking about them a few months ago when we really thought one of those 2 schools was going to be that football-only membership. And to me, they're partnering with GCU. When we added GCU, when the Mountain West added GCU, I really thought strongly that a football-only member was coming to kind of pair up with them. I don't think UC Davis necessarily needs a football-only to be paired up with them because I think eventually football could come for them. I'm talking 4-ish years down the road. I don't think UC Davis will be there in 2026 or 2027, but I think we're talking 3 or 4 years from now. But I did want to see us match up a football for the GCU membership. And we pinpointed those 2. We said it's going to be one of these 2. And sure enough, it ended up being NIU. But I don't think North Dakota State is off the table, both from a football only or potentially from a full membership here. And everybody knows that I'm on the Tarleton bandwagon here. I think they would make a great member. If you didn't see that episode, I did a map. And they fit right in. I mean, when you look at these schools that are in the Mountain West, Tarleton State is not far away from most of the Western time zone schools. UTEP is right there. New Mexico is right there. Air Force, Wyoming. GCU in Phoenix isn't that far. Of course, they've got their central time zone partner with NIU and possibly North Dakota State. So there's not much more I can say why I think Tarleton State absolutely makes a lot of sense here. And in my opinion, I mentioned that I think the NIU ad kind of forces the PAC hand in terms of getting into the central time zone. I think if you see Texas State added into the PAC, I think that absolutely forces the Mountain West hand to get further into Texas, getting in to Tarleton State. I think if Texas State happens for the PAC, Tarleton State is a must. I already think it's a must, but that is an absolute must that the Mountain West has to go after a full membership with Tarleton State because they want to try to be as equal as they can in their markets, in their geography, in all of that kind of stuff. So I think that could bode well for Tarleton if we see Texas State moving and being accepted into the PAC. I don't have any real new news on North Dakota State. Still trying to get some feelers out there with some behind-the-scenes work on them to try and just get a better understanding. As we said, we did a deeper dive with them. That was just more information you can find almost anywhere. But I am trying to work on getting some sources, if you will, for North Dakota State. The last one I want to talk about, I'm going to get to Sac State last, but let me just look here quickly at like the chat, make sure it's not getting away from me. All right, Squeeze Money. The last one I had was Laughing Face from Stable. That was an easy one for me to remember. And later on, he says he's not laughing at me. There's no way Sac State's joining. Okay, but you can laugh at me too, Stable. It's all good. So squeeze money, the fact that Texas State is basically their last choice. Plan A was the AAC schools. Plan B was UNLV and USU. Of course, they failed at that point to get UNLV. So now this is Plan C, which is Texas State. I think that's where they're at. I think, as I said a little bit earlier, they're still right now kind of taking one last poke, one last try at UNLV. I see a lot of rumors out there about this litigation, and if UNLV is not going to get the money they're being promised with the MOU, then they're going to go to the PAC, and that ain't going to happen in the next 2 months. So, the PAC needs an 8th member. And while UNLV eventually could be like, oh, wow, we're not going to get the money from the Mountain West because of this litigation, that's not going to be known here in the next 2-3 months. It's not. And I'm going to get a litigation lawsuit update out next week. I wanted to do that for tomorrow, but I'll be honest with you, I'm burnt out. After tonight, I'm done skis. This is the last thing you get from the Big Mountain this week. So I'm gonna blow it all out here tonight, and then I'm done skis. But anyway, we'll get a PAC Mountain West lawsuit update out next week, because there's new filings coming out here this week. I know there were several reports about that. Of course, we like to give you our opinions onto what is going on. But back to Squeeze Money's comment and the UNLV issue. I am going to throw a ton of cold water on everybody saying UNLV is going to go to the PAC because they're not going to get the money the Mountain West is guaranteeing. And that will not be known come April. So that's a moot point right now. The PAC needs an 8th member. And if they're hoping that's the case for UNLV, that's a bad strategy. And I don't think that is their strategy. I'm not saying it is. But that is not going to happen. So I again, throw a bunch of cold water on anybody that thinks that's what's happening right now. Check it out. Any news on the Pac-12 TV deal? Check it out. We did an episode. It dropped last Monday on the TV deals for both the Mountain West and the PAC. I don't have anything new after that episode. Kind of gave you everything I knew at that point. We talked about the players. We talked about the values and everything on that. So I would just advise you to, if you can, go back and check out that episode. I have nothing new other than what you heard on that. David Jurgensen's in the house. At one point, I thought PAC would wait for Cal Stanford, but not anymore. Yeah, that ship's gone. I see some people thinking it could be Cal coming back. I guess some coaches are complaining about the travel and this and that. They'll get used to it. I don't see that happening here whatsoever. Stable talked about that. Aaron Andy, I think you'd be surprised. I don't know who that's to. Okay, Bill, have you heard anything about the look-in for the AAC media deal? I have not at all. Are you talking about AAC or ACC? If there's an AAC look-in, I am not versed in that whatsoever. If you're talking the ACC, which is obviously February, is a very, very important date for the ACC, and all the Florida State peeps hoping that something does or doesn't happen, whichever side of that you're on with the ESPN. I haven't heard anything about that, but it's only a couple weeks away, so we'll find out. Stable, I'd love to see Sac State join the Mountain West. I'll get to Sac State here in a sec. Can FCS schools jump to FBS as independent? I don't think that they wouldn't. Rumblings, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I got some smart peeps here, but they would be independent with like an FBS schedule, and there's probably different flavors of how this can be, but they're not technically in an FBS conference, so they would just be an independent playing other FBS schools, and it just is what it is. Like they have no right to the postseason or anything like that. They have no rights. Because they're not in a conference, they're not conference members of any sort in an FBS conference. So it's not really jumping to FBS. You're just playing an independent schedule. You're just kind of out there. You're I don't know. You're Switzerland. You're nobody. I don't say you're nobody, but anyway, you're Switzerland. Okay. Squeeze Money says, yeah, Liberty did it. I see a lot of people talking now a little bit about Liberty and what they did here a few years ago. Jared says NDSU much better than SDSU. That may have been my slip of the tongue. Yes, I have no news about South Dakota State at all. The only news that I have from FCS schools are the 3 schools I have on the screen. That is the only ones. I get a lot of people asking me about the Montanas. I get a lot of people asking me about South Dakota State or even North Dakota. Why wouldn't they both go together? Zero news about anybody except Tarleton State, North Dakota State, and Sacramento State. That's it when it comes to FCS to the PAC or the Mountain West. The only caveat I will put to that is UC Davis came out of absolutely nowhere. So that doesn't mean what I'm telling you is 100% true. That's just the only 3 that I know the Mountain West had. I should say 2 of them the Mountain West has interest in. The other one, Sacramento State, has interest in becoming FBS, as we all know. Where is TSU? I assume you mean Tarleton State University. It is in Stephenville, Texas, just about, I believe it's about an hour-ish south of Dallas-Fort Worth. So they have a Fort Worth campus. It's growing immensely there in Fort Worth. And they've got a lot of money. They're in the A&M program down there in Texas. And they got some cash. So I can tell you that much. Mountain West need Texas. Totally agree with you, David. We've been saying that for the last 6 months. But hey, I'll say it again. The Mountain West needs Texas. Yes, I agree. Squeeze money. Would love to have North Dakota State make a much-deserved jump to FBS. Then he says, but man, Tarleton State seems like such a great fit all around. Frankly, I'd love them both. You don't have to convince me of either one. I'd want them both. I love Tarleton because of the fit, because of the Texas, the recruiting, the market, where they're at. Everything about that's great. But you're right. NDSU, the Bison, have paid their ever-loving dues if they want to move, which everything that I hear is that they do. My goodness, they absolutely much-deserved jump to FBS. I mean, if you look at the what is it, Sargent scores, they were I believe they were number 40 in all of FBS and FCS this year. Boise, just for reference, Boise State was 31. The team that made the number 3 seed in the CFP, they were ranked 31 in the score. North Dakota State was 40 in that score. So I totally agree with you there, Squeezed Money. Yeah, Aaron asks, can you talk about the transfers Brennan Marion has coming to Sac State? Oh, there's quite the list, and I don't have it. We want to do transfer portal updates, and I'll be sure we talk about Sacramento State when we do those, because you can't not. I'm not prepared to talk about them today, but yep, they are getting some serious FBS talent there at Sacramento State. JEH, that's kind of you, sir, agreeing with me in regard to the lawsuits in UNLV. Yeah, rumblings. Oregon State basketball coach. Apparently that happened yesterday on the Bald-Faced Truth. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to that. Somebody asked me to listen to that on X. I ended up listening to the one from, I guess that was 2 days ago. I listened to the one from yesterday, which was the former WAC commissioner. He's former commissioner of several entities, Sunbelt, I think, WAC. He was the commissioner of the WAC when the Mountain West was formed. So, he lost all of his football brands. They all went to the Mountain West. And really, it was John Canzano bringing on someone that was going to kind of say the same things as John Canzano says regarding UNLV and Nevada. And the PAC is great, and I don't understand why the Mountain West would add NIU, and I'm not judging it, but they were saying literally the same thing. And the guy is, like I said, he's former WAC commissioner. He grew up in the Northwest. He was a Boise State alumni, and he's a Boise State fan. Again, we all have our biases. But it was clear that he, I think, had some biases too. But to get back to your question, I need to go back and listen to what this whole shocking people comment was. I haven't heard that yet, but I need to go back and look at that. Let's see. Yes, our Vegas, the Mountain West, is moving their headquarters to Las Vegas. Would be a little ironic if they lost UNLV after moving their headquarters to Las Vegas. Hopefully, as a Mountain West guy, I hope that doesn't happen. That would be very awkward. Am I down? Oh, got a couple more here. Mountain West needs Utah. Yeah, I've seen the stable says that. I've seen some people say that. Weber State, I think, would maybe be the only one that they'd look at. I'm not aware that they're looking at any. I mean, let's look at the history with that state. BYU and Utah and now Utah State. They all seem to come and go, and they're not the only ones. But I just, it is a gap in their geographical footprint, right in the middle of their geographical footprint. It's kind of odd. I don't think there's any teams or schools from Utah that are going to be here in the Mountain West anytime soon. Okay, so let's get to. Bill says, sorry for responding so late. I meant the AAC media deal. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, Bill. Sorry. I can certainly try to take a look into that. I have no input on that. Sac State, the last thing I want to talk about, and please keep your comments coming. I'll do one more round of just conversations with you guys as well. Sac State, I did actually kind of want to hear from you guys on this. I threw out something a little out of the box on that PAC episode here towards the end of the episode when I was talking about Sacramento State, and that was about the potential of an independent type of schedule so that they're playing the majority of FBS schools. Because, and I have said this, I know I've said it on X, I'm not sure if I ever really said it on one of our episodes or not. I have been told that Conference USA is not interested in going that far west. I have been told that the Mountain West is not interested in Sacramento State, which to me, as soon as they added UC Davis, that was clear to me they had no interest in Sacramento State at that point. I don't see them going for two schools basically in the same market. I know people point to, well, San Jose State's just real close and all of this. I think they're looking to diversify just their geographic footprint, their media markets, all of that. I don't think Sacramento State's ever really been on the table for the Mountain West, and I'm being told they really don't have much interest right now for Sac State. And I also am hearing, again, the same thing that Teresa Gould and others have said publicly for months. The PAC is not interested in FCS programs. I still think that's true. So unless it's another conference, which it very well could be, is a Sun Belt going to go to California? It's Conference, well, not Conference UC. I already talked about them. The MAC isn't going to go to California. I can tell you that. So AAC, I don't think they're interested in that either. So, I by process of elimination is how I'm getting to this independent schedule for them. And also look at what they've been doing. I mean, everything they've done has kind of been an outside the box type of scenario for them. I mean, they're talking about using an NBA Sacramento Kings arena for their basketball team. They're talking about this huge building and expansion. You can see some of the drawings for their stadium. They're talking about these huge NIL dollars. You can see what's going on with the transfer portal right now. And I'm not saying there's no reason to believe that. As I said, I wish them the absolute best. I think what they're doing for that city and that university is fantastic. And I'm not judging them whatsoever. But everything they've done has kind of been outside the box, and it's happening really, really fast. So if they're pushing for this, this quickly, they've got to have outside the box thinking. Like, we talked to Josh Wood. He said he views this as a very special window, a very special point in time where they have an opportunity. They feel they have an opportunity to get FBS, and they are pushing as hard as they can to get to FBS. Unfortunately, while I love all of that, and I appreciate Josh Wood, Dr. Luke Wood, all of that kind of stuff, I appreciate them, and my comments aren't to knock them. I just don't see the avenue right now. That's the matter of fact. I don't see the avenue for them. But I could be wrong. I just don't see it happening. So, to get back to some of the comments about FBS and independent and all that kind of stuff, process of elimination that's what I'm seeing for them. That's why I brought it up. And I also then, and what I'd like to hear from some of our commenters, is this whole idea of a potential scheduling agreement. Now, again, not sourced at all. This is how JY's brain works. His gears start trugging along. But, I go, well, geez, if the PAC is only going to have 8 members come 26 for various reasons, and we got a school here that wants an FBS schedule, and it's way easier to have 9 conference games. Wow, a scheduling agreement could be a really nice win-win between these two parties. Sacramento State's not a member, at least yet. And you could have a scheduling agreement for a year or two that gives you the 9 football parties. It wouldn't be a conference game. It would help fill that gap because, it's on every athletic director to go out and have to fill their out-of-conference games. Again, that was just me churning some gears in my brain. Maybe they got jammed, but I just thought it was a really unique idea. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Would love to hear you guys, if you have any thoughts on that, if you think JY's just had too much to drink, but I am drinking water tonight. I need a drink. Give me a break. Oh, that water's good. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Just wanted to get your thoughts on some of that Sac State. That's all I got from them. I am anxious to see what they have here in store for the next few weeks. The way I understood his comments, I think by the end of February, I'm expecting to hear something from them. That's what I took from his comments, and we'll see what happens. So let me go back up. There's the Utah. There's that. All right, so what else we got? Apparently, ESPN isn't happy with how well the former Conference USA schools are doing and want to lower the value of the deal accordingly. Okay, interesting. ESPN, there's things I want to say, Bill, but I'm not ready to say it yet, so I'm going to bite my tongue. But it has to do with ESPN. I'm not trying to tease you, but I best not say that yet. But that's interesting in terms of those former Conference USA schools not kind of pulling their weight, so to speak. All right, Carter Wilkinson, welcome aboard, sir. May have missed it, but on the topic of UNLV, depending on the lawsuits, if PAC gets out of exit fees, that will be forwarded to UNLV Air Force. Does that get UNLV out of the MOU? So, Carter, we did talk about that a little bit, but I absolutely don't have any problem talking about it here again briefly, because that's what we do. It's a live episode. I want to have interaction with all you guys, girls, peeps. Mountain dwellers is what I'm supposed to say. Mountain dwellers. So the deal with the PAC and the lawsuits and the MOU and all of that, what was said earlier was, there's not going to be, we're not going to know the answer to this over the next couple months in order for UNLV to say, hey, we're not going to get all the money that we said that you said we were going to get in the MOU, and because of that, we're jumping to the PAC now. The timing just is not going to work out here over the next couple months for them to do that. They're not going to have an answer on those guaranteed percentages, guaranteed amounts, guaranteed payouts from the Mountain West in order to make that decision. So I don't think that is an issue at all. To further your question, though, you're asking, could that be an out of the MOU if they're unable to meet the demands that were put or meet the items that were in the MOU? My understanding of the MOU, and it's been a bit since I read this, and we're going to do a lawsuit update between the PAC and the Mountain West next week. I need my buddy Steve on here because I do much better when he's able to bounce some ideas off of. But I need to go back and revisit the MOU there. And the MOU was written in chunks of dollar amounts. So it was, and this isn't accurate, but it'll give you an example. The first part was the first $30,000 that we receive is going to be allocated as X. The next 50,000 is going to be allocated as X. The next 20,000 is going to be allocated as X. And so that first 100,000 has, I think it's 3 different ways it's being allocated. And then after the 100,000, that's when it gets into the first kind of dollar after the 100,000 pays for the attorney's fees. Then there's a set aside for additions. I think it was $18 million that the Mountain West is setting aside to help transition schools to the Mountain West, pay their exit fees or whatever the case may be. And then after that, there's another percentage of, anything after that's allocated. And I think at that point it's evenly, anything over, I believe it's $120 million, give or take, is allocated evenly amongst the members. So to your question about, do the exit fees, is that going to be an out for Air Force and UNLV? Anything can be an out. That's a vanilla way to answer this. Any contract can be broken. So yeah, it could be. But I don't think the lawsuits right now have much to do with them getting out of the MOU. But MOUs can be broken, contracts can be broken, all that jazz can be broken. There's a lot of questions on if these MOUs are binding. I would say they're only as binding as you finding an attorney to litigate them, right? So anything can be litigated. I have asked around about the grant of rights because the MOU talks about, there's going to be a grant of rights with the Mountain West. And I've been asking around about the grant of rights with the Mountain West and with the PAC. I have not gotten any solid answers, but I don't think either of these conferences have a finalized grant of rights yet. And that's going to be really important too. Again, you can fight a grant of rights, but it's going to be a lot more difficult to break than what I would assume an MOU probably is. So yeah, I talked a lot there. Hopefully that helps answer a little bit of your question. Squeeze Money, gotta go. Really appreciate it. Hey, thanks, Squeeze Money, although you're not on anymore, but thanks. Fully believe Sacramento may become independent. Okay, so Bill's kind of on the page that I am, maybe kind of an independent type of deal at the FBS level, kind of doing their own thing, proving their worth. Jerry, your take was bold and could just be right. Yeah, we'll see. I agree. I'm going to put myself out there. We'll see what happens. Ton of momentum locally in Sacktown. I get it. I mean, they got the the Sac-12, PAC-12 thing. It's really catchy. I get all that. Edward G. Hard to see Sac State going independent, being on the West Coast. There just isn't many close opponents like Liberty. Good point, no doubt. Good point. High travel costs. But I'll tell you what, they seem to have money to make this sucker work. So we'll see. Glad Sac State is pushing. Need more FBS schools out west. Yep, rumblings, I agree. Yes, I agree, JEH. Stadium draw-ups look pretty awesome. Architects can do pretty awesome things with the stroke of a pen. Well, I guess they use computers now. I don't know. Okay, rumblings. Scheduling agreement with Sac State damages the schedule when hurting for a CFP bid. It does, but got to do what you got to do sometimes. But your point taken. Understood. How does Sac State feel about 8 road games? Hey, honestly, JEH, that's a good question, but I'll bet you if there are 8 FBS road games, they probably take it. I'll be honest. I think they take it because they want to be FBS. That is their goal. It's another good question. I don't know, but I could see it. Bill says it could be a possibility, just afraid they make it burn and be told you're not going to become a member. Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't mean the scheduling agreement turns into a membership, although it could. I think it's just, hey, we'll help you out, you help us out, kind of like what happened this past year at the Mountain West in the PAC, and we see what happened after that. Same type of deal could happen there with that bill, for sure. Oh, Justin in the house, $2. Number 3, look at you go, number 3. All we need is Tarleton State and NDSU, perfect fit, totally agree, pound that drum, let's do it. Thanks, Justin, appreciate the super. If Sac State happens, it'll be all but football, similar to UC Davis. Okay, possible. Hey, Paul, great stuff. Appreciate it. Looking forward to Texas State movement. Yep, you heard me. I think it's being worked on. I know it's being worked on. I got to watch my language. I know it's being worked on. I personally think it's likely that movement will happen, but I do know it's being worked on. Much higher paycheck for each week than playing in the Big Sky. Yeah, absolutely, Joseph. Yeah. I mean, they would make it, they'd make it worth their while if they get a scheduling agreement with the PAC. They'd be making some bucks for sure. Carter, you're welcome. Hopefully I didn't ramble on my answer to you. Looking good. Texas State as well. Yep. Sounds good, Esteban. From what I've heard, from what I've read, the Pac-12 has the teams locked into a GOR, grant of rights. Mountain West still an MOU, which leads to a grant of rights if the media deal. Yeah. So I can't speak as much to the PAC, Edward, on that. So the PAC may have a grant of right at this point. I mean, the original document, that original form that was signed said there was going to be a long form agreement and a grant of rights. Basically, I'm going to paraphrase, as soon as possible. Well, plenty of time has gone by. So I would be shocked at this point if the PAC didn't have a grant of rights, knowing what we know from that beginning agreement. So I can't speak to whether or not they do or they don't. I would hope that they would, based on what we've seen from that agreement. I'm less certain that the Mountain West has a grant of rights. So kind of what you're saying there. Ron, the Snowbelt Mountain Man Conference may happen if the Mountain West doesn't take certain terms. I don't even know what that means. The Snowbelt Mountain Man Conference. Okay, I think he means, I'm not really 100% sure what you mean, but I love it. I think it's a great comment. Well done. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now he's got the emojis out. I see what you got there. All right, he's talking the two Dakotas, and he's talking the two, is that the two Montanas? Is that what that is? It's the two Dakotas, because he's got the rabbit and the bison. And then he's got, what is that? A bear, and is that a cat? I don't know. I'm assuming he means the Dakotas and the Dakotas. Yeah. I love emojis, though. This is like freaking Pictionary up in here. So, hey, with that, we're going to end it tonight. We have a lot of fun in the mountain. I know we have a new peeps on here from Texas State. I know we got some interested parties from Sac State. I know we've got interested parties from all kinds of PAC and Mountain West fans. And that's what we do on the mountain, guys. We love to follow Western football. I love to follow Western football. I am trying to get you information that is valuable, that is reliable. And I've talked about sources. I get some jabs on X. I know what I'm saying is comments like, I believe this and I believe that. I've kind of given you as much as I can right now in terms of what I've been hearing and what my opinions are based on what I've been hearing. Hopefully that's clear enough. That doesn't mean Texas State will be a member of the PAC, but I'm telling you right now, it is being worked on. That's a fact. So with that, hey, we thank you guys for watching. Like this episode if you can, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.